Welcome and hello. Welcome to the Go Plan video library that includes Greenleaf Financial Fitness Series and other financial professional series involved with personal financial wellness. This series, along with other videos, will be posted on our Go Plan YouTube channel, websites, and other social media outlets. My name is Jim Hiles, and as your host, I think it's important to highlight what financial wellness is and how tools like Go Plan 101 can help Americans achieve their goals and wishes. So, what is financial wellness? It is defined as the overall financial health of an individual. What it does for you is probably most important. It helps you increase understanding all things related to money. It can also help decrease stress, help you make better decisions, and perhaps most importantly, keep you on track as things change in the future. What's Go Plan 101? Well, Go Plan 101 combines web technology and educational content with behavioral change solutions, free software, and a huge resource center full of focused responses. Translation? Simple. Go Plan 101 is a cool site that helps people deal with their money issues so they can do what they want to do. And you also have the capability on our site to talk to a coach or go right to the resource. At the end of the day, financial wellness is only as good as the actions taken. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Greenleaf Financial Fitness Series, 20 Minutes to a Healthier, Wealthier You. Today's topic is debt management, which is certainly one of the topics that touches all of us at some level. As always, I'm going to introduce the team up top here. First, we have Jamie Greenleaf. Jamie is the partner and lead advisor. Sorry about that. Of course, you all know Jamie, most of you do, partner and lead advisor with Cafaro Greenleaf. Our special guest today is Kim Cole. Kim is with Navicor Solutions, which is a nonprofit financial counseling firm located here in New Jersey, but licensed in all 50 states. Kim is also the current president of the New Jersey Coalition for Financial Education, so we're very happy to have Kim today. Jim Hiles is the managing partner of First Capital Advisors Group, also a board member of the NJCFE. And I'm Jim D. I'm a financial advisor here at Greenleaf Financial, and I'll be your host. So, Kim, let's get the stress right out on the table. You see all this list here that you shared with us, and we appreciate it. Can you talk to us now a little bit about what you see in your marketplace and what this list means to you?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be part of this today. What a lot of people miss are the true warning signs of financial trouble. And by the time they reach agencies like mine, they are kind of past this point. So what we'd like to talk about is the initial warning signs of financial trouble. So for people that may be missing a payment or they're running a little bit late on their payments, only able to make minimum payments on credit cards can be a real warning sign. Burying your head in the sand, which is quite common practice when people feel overwhelmed, so they're unaware of their current balances. If credit cards are being maxed out, we need to borrow from friends and family to make monthly bills. One that, of course, comes up all the time is having no emergency savings. One of the keys to being able to be financially stable is having one of those. If you're moving debt around instead of paying it off, that can be a problem. Check bouncing, use of overdraft, payday loans, which are not as common in New Jersey, but are common throughout the country. You can also take them online. They have exorbitantly high interest rates, some as high as 650% interest. And taking, that's please. That's a whole other argument in itself, but taking cash advances from credit cards, again, typically comes with a higher interest rate, of course, not 650%, but, that's also another warning sign.
I see. We might also throw in here people who are always taking loans, either one loan or two loans at a time against retirement plans. That could be another sign, I would imagine, right?
Huge, and one that we stand so firmly against people who will borrow against a 401k or retirement plan for things like a credit card. It's like, oh no. So yeah, that's something that that could definitely be a warning sign.
Right, an issue, sure.
Definitely. So, one of the keys is, when you're kind of trying to figure out debt, is seeing your credit report. We are entitled to a credit report free once a year from each of the three major bureaus, and those are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. The easiest way to go about obtaining that report is through annualcreditreport.com, or you can call the number that we have listed.
Okay, great. So this is a credit report, not a credit score, right? Or is it both?
Correct. When it comes to the credit report, the information that's on the credit report is often more valuable than the score itself. The score is just a kind of a numerical representation of what information is on that report. But to really see the level of debt and what's going on, you need to see that report first and foremost.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things that we recommend, coming from credit counseling, when looking to pay off debt is by starting with a technique called redirection. And redirection simply is adding a little extra money each month to one of your credit cards. And then once that credit card has been paid off, shifting that entire payment to another credit card, so that while you may always be paying, as you can see in this example, $120 a month, that's not going to change through the entirety of the debt. And what it will do is it will pay the debt off much quicker. That's how agencies like ours are usually able to pay debt off in a period of 5 years, as opposed to sometimes easier debt being 30 years out. Redirection is the key to that.
Okay, just get stuck on that one number and keep paying it, no matter who it's going to.
Exactly right. And there are two methods that can be utilized for debt repayment. The first one is the avalanche method. And I will tell you, this is my personal favorite. This is essentially where, when you're determining which credit card to pay off first or add that additional amount to, you pick the credit card with the highest interest rate. This way, you're paying off that higher interest rate debt first, and this will tend to save you the most amount of money over time.
Okay, and then the other method? Also
The other method would be that's the snowball method, where this is good for the person that kind of needs that more instant gratification, where they're going to start to pay the debt off in the order of the smallest balance to the largest balance, and this way you feel rewarded as you pay each credit card off. However, the benefit is more mental than financial.
Right. So that's a trick people use. I've heard that before, where pay off something so you have that sense of accomplishment, right? You feel like you did something. So you're saying that's not mathematically the best way to do it, but for some people who need that instant gratification, this might be a way for them to feel that satisfaction.
Exactly right. So, of course, one of the solutions that a lot of people that are experiencing large amounts of debt immediately jump to is bankruptcy. But, of course, the question that I get most is how much damage does it really do? Bankruptcy, we can say now, impacts a credit score as much as 240 points, which is quite significant. Bankruptcy law now also requires that there be a credit counseling session prior to filing. Once the bankruptcy has been filed, in order for it to be discharged or completed, a financial education course is needed as well. And that's something that's come about in the last few years as requirements. There's also a means test that's given so that it takes a look at income as well as property and ownership, and a determination is made on which types of bankruptcy you can file based on how much property you own and what your true net worth may be.
Got it. So it may not be the real sense of relief that some people might think that it could bring, right?
Exactly. That is why the Department of the trustees have decided to incorporate that credit counseling component, because what the idea is that clients are able to see that there are additional solutions outside of bankruptcy. Many people don't understand that bankruptcy can cost upwards of $3,000 to file. So if they're using an attorney and attorney fees, so it's not always the best solution.
Got it. Now, we covered this in our last webinar, student debt, and this certainly seems to be a growing concern. And as a matter of fact, it has eclipsed credit card debt, right? So it affects a lot of families out there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, of course, with student loans, we are seeing. The first thing I want to mention, because we had kind of talked a little bit about retirement before. So one question that I get quite a bit is, do I stop putting money into my retirement in order to apply money towards my child's education? And the answer that we always give to that is quite simple, and that is your child has a very long life to pay off their debt. You will not have as much time on the back end to save for retirement. So our recommendation is always put that money towards your retirement if you have to choose between the two. So to get that out right off the bat.
Don't be a martyr, right?
Don't be a martyr is exactly right, because, as we've seen, and I know I'm not telling you anything that you guys don't know, it's becoming more and more expensive to survive as a senior in the country. And as we cannot rely on Social Security to be what's going to keep us afloat, we do have to rely on things like our 401ks and our investments. And like I said, a student will have a lifetime to pay back student debt. Unfortunately, we will not have a lifetime to save for retirement if we're already in our 50s and 60s and putting our children through school.
Right. Got it.
Question for you. I had a question for you, Kim, on these student loans, because we do get questions about, their newspaper headlines, $1 trillion in student loans, this, massive debt that we're putting together, to have somebody come out and be in debt the first day they start their first job. Are you seeing any action in terms of some sort of relief in terms of how that's being dealt with, as a society?
It's funny you should mention that. Something that just kind of came across my desk last week was there's a new trend, especially in the tech industry, where kids are amassing massive amounts of student loan debt, and a lot of these companies, as part of an incentive to bring them over, is paying off a portion of their student loan debt. So we're seeing that. In addition to that, we're hoping to get the word out more about some of these student loan forgiveness programs that come around, for instance, for the working in nonprofit industries and things like that. And I think that what really, education is the key to this. If a student, what we recommend when it comes to borrowing is that a student should not borrow more debt than they anticipate making their first year out of college. And so I think a decision has to be made by students as far as the schools that they're looking at. It may be the greatest campus in the world. It may be the most fun party school, but if it's going to require you to borrow extreme amounts of money, it may not be the right choice.
That's great. I haven't heard that before. So that's a rule of thumb that you kind of go by, is what you'll make in a year is what you should borrow total for 4 years?
Yes, that's kind of the rule of thumb that we go by, and we often use teachers as the marker, because teachers around the country tend to make kind of a similar amount. We say teachers that go to these amazing schools and graduate with $100,000 of student loan debt may not be getting a higher paying job than somebody who went to a local state school and graduated with $30,000 worth of debt.
Right.
So they're getting the same jobs, except one has to repay the $30,000, the other has to pay the $100,000. So to what benefit? Of course there are different, there are extreme examples such as doctors and, again, the tech industry, high level finance. But if you're talking about typical undergrad, degrees, that's our rule of thumb.
That's good. Thank you.
Sure. So one of the things that we get questions about quite a bit are loan deferment and, like how long do I have? What's going to happen? And traditionally what happens when you leave school, go to school less than half time, or you graduate, the student loans become due and payable right at the 6-month mark. However, I do like to point out that parents that are taking out plus loans, which are the parents' loans, those are due and payable immediately. That is not something that waits until after graduation. So we hear a lot about what is the difference between a forbearance and a deferment. And so basically what we look at is the deferment, which it's a time where the student is able to repay the principal and the interest. The period of time that it's temporarily delayed for the principal and the interest. So if it's a subsidized loan, the government may pay on it, which would be nice. If it's not, then the student would continue to accumulate the interest. The forbearance, on the other hand, is used when a student is not eligible for the deferment, and it's the ability to stop making payments or reduce payments for up to 12 months. And again, interest on this accrues not only on unsubsidized, but also the subsidized loans.
Got you. So can you talk a little bit about what these different types of loans and which ones you would recommend people look at first?
Sure, absolutely. First and foremost, people should exhaust all of the federal student loans that are available to them before going into the private lending market. The direct subsidized loans, also known as kind of the Stafford loans, what the subsidized is income based, and if your income meets certain requirements, the federal government will pay your interest while you are in school during that time. An unsubsidized loan is not income contingent. So no matter what the income is, you will receive that loan. However, the interest accrues during that time the student is in school. Federal government does not step in and pay anything towards that. So, of course, my recommendation is if you can get a subsidized loan, that's definitely the way to go. The Direct Plus loan is, again, that parent loan. So just be aware that that tends to come with a little bit of a higher interest rate, as well as it's also credit contingent. The direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans do not require credit checks and are in the names of the students, as opposed to the plus loans, which is in the parent's name.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So now we'll skip back ahead to where we were before I made you go backwards, right? So we're talking a lot about student.
No problem.
We'll talk about. You could talk a little bit about this too, and then if you have any more about personal debt, we'll finish up with that, and you could talk a little bit more about that if you don't mind.
Not at all. So student loan repayment, as you can see, there are a number of options. And while going into each and every option would take, that's an hour program in its own right, what I wanted everybody to see is that there are a number of different options available, and that it is critical that when a student has come out of school and they're experiencing a financial hardship, or they've seen that their student loan minimum payments are much higher than is affordable, that becoming aware of these repayment options and specifically asking for them is crucial. A number of the different servicers have kind of been dinged for not offering all these different options. However, if the student asks for them, they will then offer them out. So just educating yourself on these income-based and contingent plans is critical.
Got you. So this is one of those, you don't know what you don't know, right? If you didn't know to ask,
Yep.
You wouldn't know that they had it up their sleeve to offer, is basically what you're saying.
Correct. And the only other thing I want to point out about this is that with long-term repayment plans, some of these extend out to 25 and 30 years, interest does tend to accumulate. So while you do have a much longer time to repay, and it may give you some relief in the short term, in the long term, you may be paying back twice the amount you borrowed.
Sure.
So just keep that in mind.
What about interest rates? What about interest rates on? Do they vary, or are they set, or do they change among different programs?
As far as the student loans go, the student loans themselves right now, they are fixed rates for the federal student loans. So at this point in time, they, if you sign up, they don't change during the term of your loan.
Okay.
You maintain the same interest rate.
All right. And do you know what the rate is?
I think it's around 6% right now.
6% sounds about right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so If we wanted to kind of sum this up, the first
Yeah.
thing I think you would advise people is to go make sure they get their free credit report, right?
Oh, without question. That's definitely the foundation of not only knowing how much you owe, but also it helps identify if there's errors, which happen way too frequently.
Okay, especially now, I would imagine with all the digital, with the information out on the web, right?
Without question, without question. For many of my clients, it's the first indicators of identity theft as well. So it's definitely a good idea to make sure you're seeing those reports at least once a year.
Okay, good. And then organize your finances, get organized, understand your debts, and then and obviously the interest rates you're paying on those, so you can then determine which repayment method works best for you. We talked about the snowball and the avalanche, right? Those are two methods that people should consider to help them.
Absolutely.
And if you need more help, consult with a credit counselor, right?
So let me ask you
Without question. Absolutely.
You've heard different things about debt management. They're on TV, on the websites out there. Like,
good point.
Who do you go to? What should you pay? You know, where are the bad guys? Where are the bad operators? What do they look like versus the good ones?
Okay, so first of all, you want to make sure that you are getting yourself involved with a nonprofit credit counseling agency. We have organizations, for instance, like the NFCC, that's the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, that certifies our organizations and make sure that the agencies that you're working with are licensed and bonded in every state. I also suggest that if you call an agency and they are charging fees and you are in a financial position where you cannot afford them, if those fees are not able to be reduced based on need, hang up the phone. If it sounds too good to be true, it often is. There is no such thing as making debt just disappear. There are tax ramifications to debt settlements. There are not paying a debt back in full can definitely have its own set of problems. And like I said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Most debt management programs should take about 5 years to repay, and you should be making payments every month that should be dispersed to the creditors every month. If an agency is holding money in escrow, waiting for the account to become more delinquent to offer a settlement, stay away.
Good advice. Thank you. Okay. So, Kim, thank you very much. This was very helpful. Hopefully our listeners got as much out of it as we did. And
so we covered a lot of ground, and let's just summarize. You know, it's time to put this information to work. We live in a wonderful and a free country, but it's up to us to take responsibility and move forward, particularly on our personal financial wellness. So let's take some action here. Let's go and explore this financial stuff. Take a buddy with you if you need to. Have some fun. Learn a little or learn a lot about what you can do financially. You know, these videos and websites, I hope you enjoy. I think they're great. But if you're like me, sometimes you just want someone to talk it out with. So seek out coaching from our site from professionals who've been vetted to provide you with complimentary initial consultations as being part of the Go Plan 101 experience. If you've not started your planning, or even if you have, use today's video to explore the area of concentration. Make sure you understand how it impacts you. My favorite quote is, life doesn't go in a straight line. You need to stay on top of it. So consider subscribing to our newsletter or our YouTube channel. Please reach out to me if you want more help or have questions. And lastly, thank you for listening. Now, go plan and go attain your financial wellness goals. Jim Hiles signing off for today. Take care.